Today we're going to talk about how to read music notes on a 5-line staff in both treble and bass clef. Music clefs are symbols that are used in sheet music to indicate the range of the written notes. They are placed at the beginning of a staff. The treble clef is used for higher-pitched instruments and represents higher range of notes. Bass clef is used for lower-pitched instruments. It represents the lower range of notes. There are 7 letter names in music notes. Starting from A, they are A, B, C, D, F, G. For example, on the piano, each letter name represents one key. After the note G, letter names repeat in a loop. Let's start with the 5-line staff before we get into reading music notes. The 5 horizontal lines represent different pitches of musical notes. The top line is the highest pitch, and the bottom line symbolizes the lowest pitch. To remember the notes on the lines of the treble clef staff, you can use mnemonics like, "Every good boy deserves fudge." To remember the notes on the space, "face" is an easy mnemonic to recall the notes. At this point, let's talk about ledger lines. When notes are too high or too low to be notated on a staff, ledger lines are used to extend the staff. Now let's get back to read the bass clef. It represents different pitches than the notes on the treble clef staff. The top line is also the highest pitch, and the bottom line represents the lowest pitch. To remember the notes on the bass clef staff, you can use mnemonics like "Good boys do fine always" to remember the notes on the spaces. "All cows eat grass." Now let's look at some exercises of music notes on the 5-line staff. See if you can spot them. We'll start with treble clef. That's it for today's lesson on reading basic music notes on a 5-line staff in both treble and bass clef. Remember to practice regularly and use mnemonics to help you remember the notes. Stay tuned for more lessons on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Today I'm going to teach note value in music in a simple way. Usually we have 2 systems to name the note value. Both the British way and the American way are commonly used. Imagine there is a very big cake that represents a semibreve or whole note. Now, I'm going to share this cake with 2 people, which we call a minim, or half note. If the cake is shared by 4 people, each segment becomes a crotchet or quarter note. At this point, you can make a guess of the next note value, which should be a quaver or 8th note, because the cake will be shared by 8 people. And then there are 16 people to share the cake, that is semi-quaver or 16th note. When there are 32 people to share the cake, that becomes demi-semiquaver or 32nd note. The next will be 64th note. In British English is hemidemi-semiquaver. I hope you all remember it. We will further discuss it afterwards. Now, let's have a quiz. Today, we will go over note values and basic rhythmic patterns. These are the building blocks of music, and mastering them is important if you want to read music on the score fluently. First, let's talk about note values. Remember in Lesson 1, we have talked about each note representing a certain duration of time, and we measure that time in beats. The most common note values are the semibreve, which receives 4 beats. The minim is given 2 beats. Crotchet is 1 beat. The quaver is half a beat long and the semi-quaver is a quarter of 1 beat. Let's discuss rhythmic patterns now. It is a pattern of sound and silence, which is created by combining different note values. For example, you can create a simple rhythmic pattern made up of minims and crotchet, and presents like this. Let's listen to how the sound is. Let's try more rhythmic patterns. This one is made up of crotchets and quavers. The following is created with the combination of crotchets, quavers, and semiquavers. Notice how the rhythm changes when we add in different note values? This is the foundation of all music, and once you understand note values and rhythmic patterns, you'll be able to play any piece of music you want. Now, it's your turn. Let's get a piece of paper and start dictating some rhythmic patterns together. Try your best and see if you can write them correctly. I will play each pattern twice. Each exercise will be in 4/4 time. Are you ready? Let's get started now. Well done. This is the end of this lesson. See you until next time. Today we're going to learn about an important aspect of music notation, rests. Rests are just as important as notes in music, as they help to give us a sense of space and timing. So, let's dive in. A rest is a musical symbol that indicates a moment of silence or a pause in the music. Just like notes, they have different symbols and represent different lengths of silence. To identify musical rests, both the British and American terms are commonly used. Let's go over the different types of rests. Semi-breve rest or whole rest. This rest looks like a rectangle that hangs from the fourth line of the staff. It represents 4 beats of silence in 4/4 time. Sometimes semi-breve is used as a whole bar rest. Here you can see the example is in 3/4 time. The whole bar rest is used, representing 3/4 beats. Minim rest or half rest. This rest is located on the third line of the staff. It means 2 beats of silence in 4/4 time. Whole rest and half rest can be easily confused. Imagine the whole rest as a fluorescent tube with 4 rays of light shining through it. Half rest looks like a gentleman hat. Remember, there are 2 eyes underneath. Well, those are just 2 analogies to help you remember it easily. Crotchet rest or quarter rest. This rest looks like a fancy Z and sits on the second line of the staff. It represents one quiet beat in 4/4 time. Quaver rest or eighth rest. This rest resembles a small 7. It represents half a beat of silence in 4/4 time. Semi-quaver rest and 16th rest. This rest looks like a small S. It represents a quarter of a beat of silence in 4/4 time. Now quiz time. Well done. You now have a better understanding of rests and how they contribute to music notation. Remember, rests are just as important as notes, so always pay attention to them when reading or playing music. Thanks for listening and see you next time. Today we're going to learn about dotted rhythm. Let's define it first. A dotted rhythm is one in which each note is followed by a dot. The dot after the note extends the length of the note by half of its original value. Let's take a dotted minim note as an example. A dotted minim note is equal to 3 beats. Since a minim note is worth 2 beats, the dot adds another crotchet beat, which makes it equal to 3 beats. Another example is the dotted crotchet note. A dotted crotchet note is equal to 1.5 beats. Since a crotchet note is 1 beat long, the dot adds another half beat to make it 1.5 crotchet beats long. The dotted rhythm applies to rests as well. For example, a dotted minim rest is worth 3 beats in 4/4 time. Now it's time to get some practice. There are 2 exercises below. You can check the answer after each exercise. Thank you for joining me in this class on dotted rhythms. See you until next time. Today we'll be learning the meaning of tie note. To start, let's define what a tie note is. A tie is a curved line connecting 2 notes of the same pitch. When 2 notes are tied together, the duration of both notes combined and played as one note. For example, let's say we have 1 semi-breve and 1 minim. If we tie these 2 notes together with a curved line, we create a new note that lasts for 6 crotchet beats. It is very important to remember that both notes should be in the same pitch, and you only play the note once. Don't get confused with tie note and slur. The tie links 2 notes of the same pitch, whereas the slur connects 2 or more different notes to indicate that they should be played smoothly without any separation. Let's listen to some examples. Another example. A tie note can occur both across and within a bar. When it is difficult to explain certain note value with one single note, tie note can be used. Take a look in this example. The note value is difficult to explain with one single note, so we use a tie to notate it. Both notes merge together as 2.5 beats long. When a tie joins 2 notes with an accidental placed on the first note, the second note is also affected by the accidental, even across a bar line. In the above example, the first note is also a C sharp in the second bar. That's all for our lesson on tie notes. I'll see you next time for more music theory lessons. Today we will be talking about the concept of accidentals in music theory. Accidental notes are notes that have been slightly altered and are not part of the key signature. Therefore, they need to be marked with a symbol. Now, let's start with the 3 types of accidentals. The first one is known as a sharp, which is indicated by a hashtag-like symbol. A sharp raises the pitch of a note by a semitone. For example,
If we have a C note and we put a sharp sign before it, it becomes a C sharp, which is one semitone higher than a C. The second type of accidental is a flat, indicated by a symbol resembling the letter B. A flat lowers the pitch of a note by a semitone. For example, if we take an A note and add a flat sign before it, it becomes an A flat, which is one semitone lower than an A. The third type of accidental is called a natural. A natural cancels the effect of any accidental that occurs before the natural sign. For example, if we have a C sharp note and we place a natural sign before it, it becomes a C natural, which is back to its original pitch. Remember that accidental is only effective within one bar. All the other notes with the same pitch are affected afterwards within the same bar. See the following example. Now, let's discuss where accidentals are placed. Accidentals come before the note they are modifying. For example, if we want to play a C sharp note, we write the symbol sharp before the note C. However, if we just write the letter C sharp on a passage, not writing it on the 5-line staff, the symbol should go after the letter like this. Lastly, let's talk about double sharps and double flats. A double sharp is indicated by the symbol that looks like an X, and it raises the pitch of a note by 2 semitones. For example, if you put a double sharp symbol before C, it becomes D. A double flat is indicated by the symbol like 2 B's sticking together, and it lowers the pitch of a note by 2 semitones. For example, if you put a double flat after the note G, it becomes F notes in different positions on the staff are not affected by one another's accidentals. For example, the third note is a D natural here. The second flat on has no effect on it, because the pitch is not the same. It's an octave higher. So there you have it. This is the end of this lesson. See you until next time. In this tutorial, we will go through the basics of time signatures and how they work. So, what exactly is a time signature? Time signature is usually found at the beginning of a piece of music and is represented by 2 numbers, one on top of the other. The upper one tells the number of beats in a measure, and the lower one indicates type of note value that receives 1 beat. In Lesson 1, we have mentioned types of note value. For example, semi-breve, minim, crotchet, quaver, and semi-quaver. Now let's take a look at some common time signatures. 4/4 time. This is the most common time signature in music. It means that there are 4 beats in a measure and each beat equals to a crotchet. Now let's listen to an example in 4/4 time. Three-four time. This time signature means that there are 3 beats in a measure and the crotchet receives 1 beat. Here is an example of 3/4 time. Two-four time. This time signature means that there are 2 beats in a measure and each beat means a crotchet. Let's listen to an example of 2/4 time. So that's a brief introduction to time signatures. Now, let's see if you can identify the time signature of the following except. Keep in mind, the number on the top of the time signature tells us how many beats are in each measure, and the number on the bottom tells us what kind of note value gets 1 beat. I will play each except twice.
Thanks for watching. See you until next time.
In this video, we will go over two essential aspects of music notation, the bar line and the note beaming. Let's start with the bar line. The bar line is a vertical line that divides music into equal measures or bars. Each bar represents a fixed number of beats. The purpose of dividing music into bars is to organize music in a better way, so that musicians can read and play music more efficiently by breaking it down into smaller, manageable sections. To better understand the importance of bar lines, let's take a look at an example. Here's a piece of music without any bar lines. As you can see, the music lacks any sense of structure. It's difficult to read and play for musicians. Now, let's add some bar lines and see how it changes. With the addition of bar lines, the music now has a clear sense of rhythm and structure. It seems like that is easier to read and play. However, the score will look even better if notes are beamed as groups of beats. Now, let's talk about beaming. It is a horizontal line that connects notes together. Notes which are smaller than crotchets, such as quavers and semiquavers, have tails attached to them. To make it easier to read, we join all tails together with a horizontal line, which makes it easier to read. Take a look at these quaver notes. Note with one tail have one beam. We can beam these notes like this. Note with two tails have two beams and should be connected like this. Notes with different numbers of tails can be grouped like this. In conclusion, the bar line and the beaming are essential elements of music notation that play a crucial role in creating rhythm and structure. Understanding the purpose of bar lines and beaming allows musicians to read and play music more efficiently, while composers can create more logical and structured compositions. Thank you for watching. See you until next time. Welcome to today's lesson on music note beaming. If we have a series of notes that are played in quick succession, it would be uneasy to read each note separately. That's where beams come in. Beams are horizontal lines that connect notes to indicate that they are played as a group. For example, here's a series of quaver notes without beams. It should be written like this. A series of semiquaver notes should be written like this. It's important to note that beams should be used to group notes that are played within the same beat, usually to make the beat unit obvious. If the notes are played over different beats, then we should use separate beams or simply write the notes separately. Beams cannot cross the bar lines. For example, the following music is in 4/4 time. The note beaming is correct since it shows an obvious strong and weak beat relationship. The music looks clean and neat in this case. Now let's take a look at another example. This one is incorrect because it weakens the importance of the third beat, which is a second strong beat in 4/4 time. In 3/4 time, beaming is right in the following example. Note that a series of 6 quavers notes should be beamed like this, not like this. Rests can be included within a group of beamed notes, for example like this one. And that's a brief overview of music note beaming. I hope this lecture has been helpful in understanding how to use beams to indicate rhythm in music notation. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Welcome back to our music theory series. In today's episode, we're going to learn tones and semitones. Let's dive right in. Tones and semitones, sometimes known as whole step and half step in American terms, are the building blocks of Western music. They form the basis of scales, chords, and melodies. A semitone is the shortest distance between two adjacent notes, whether on a piano keyboard or a guitar fretboard. For example, from E to F, it is impossible to insert one more note between E to F. Let's take a look at another example of semitone. Here you can see it is impossible to squeeze one more note between G and F sharp, so that it is a semitone. A whole tone equals 2 semitones. For example, the picture below shows 2 notes from G to A. We can squeeze a G sharp or A flat between them. There are 2 semitones here from G to G sharp, and then G sharp to A. Now let's do some exercises to review the concept of whole tone and semitone. Thank you for joining us in this episode of our music theory series. See you until next time. Today, we're diving into the major scales and scale degrees. Major scales are a fundamental concept in music theory. They consist of a specific pattern of 8 notes. Each letter name appears only once. The first and the last note are the same. The first note of a major scale is called the tonic. For example, in this C major scale, the first note C is the tonic. It serves as the foundation for the scale and determines its name. To form a scale, we need to know the distance between each of the notes in the scale. The distance will be either a tone or semitone. In this C major scale, the distance between each note is like this. From C to D, it is a whole tone. D to E is a whole tone. E to F is a semitone. F to G is a whole tone. G to A is a whole tone. A to B is a whole tone. B to C is a semitone. We then form a scale pattern like this. Whole tone, semitone, whole tone, semitone. Remember this formula. You can then build up a scale starting from any note. For example, in this G major scale, the formula is the same. Remember the 7th note has to be F sharp, not G flat, because we've already got a G in the scale. Each letter name can appear only once. We have just built up the scale. And now we need to know the name of each scale degree. Each degree has its unique role and function. The tonic, as the first degree, establishes the tonal center and provides a sense of stability. The supertonic, mediant, subdominant, and dominant degrees contribute to the harmonic and melodic structure of the scale, adding tension, resolution, and movement. The submediant and leading tone complete the scale, with the leading tone creating a strong desire to resolve back to the tonic. Understanding major scales and scale degrees is crucial for musicians, as they provide a framework for creating melodies, harmonies, and chord progressions. By recognizing and utilizing scale degrees, musicians can navigate through different tonalities, create expressive melodies, and craft harmonically rich compositions. This is all for this episode. See you until next time. In this tutorial, we will take a look at some basic key signatures of C, G, D, F major. Key signatures are musical notations that tell us which notes are frequently used in a piece of music. When we write music that mainly uses notes from the C major scale and ends with a C, then we can say that the music is in C major. The key signature of C major contains no sharp or flat, making it the simplest key signature. Let's listen to music in C major. Now let's move on to G major. When we write music that mainly uses notes from the G major scale, that is G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp, the piece is then identified as in G major. There is a F sharp in G major scale. Instead of writing all the Fs with sharp signs throughout the piece, we just need to write one sharp at the beginning, right after the clef, to indicate that all Fs should be F sharps. For example, the following music was written in G major, because it starts and ends with G. If the score is presented without key signature, there are so many F sharps throughout the music. With a key signature, it looks so neat like this. Remember that in treble clef, we always write the F sharp sign on the highest line, not the lower spaced one. In the bass clef, we write the F sharp on the 4th line counting from the bottom. Remember, in this example, all Fs should be F sharps, not only the one on the top line in treble clef, or the 4th line of the bass clef. Let's listen to some music in G major.
Let's move on to D major now. In D major, we encounter two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. The key signature looks like this. Let's listen to some music in D major. Lastly, let's take a look in F major, which has one flat, B flat. The flat is written on the middle line in the treble clef. In the bass clef, the flat is written on the second line from the bottom. If a piece of music was written with notes mainly from the F major scale, which are F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, the piece is in F major. Let's listen to some music in F major. Key signatures play a vital role in determining the overall mood and character of a piece. Each major key has its unique flavor, adding variety and interest to the musical landscape. So next time you listen to or play music, pay attention to the key signature, and you'll gain a deeper appreciation for the artistry behind it. That's all for this episode. See you until next time.
Interval is an essential concept in understanding and analyzing melodies, chords, and harmonies. In music theory, an interval refers to the distance between two pitches or notes. It is measured by the number of letter names. Intervals can be classified into two main types, melodic intervals and harmonic intervals. Melodic intervals are played sequentially one after another, while harmonic intervals are played simultaneously. As mentioned earlier, numbers are used to describe intervals. For example, the interval between C and E is called a third because it spans three letter names, C, D, E. Similarly, the interval between C and D is called a second because it spans two letter names, C, D. Now, can you tell the number of this interval? Yes, it's a sixth. From C to A, there are 6 letter names. The picture below shows intervals that are based on the C major scale. The first one from middle C to the same middle C is called a unison. The last one goes from middle C to another higher C as an octave. Now let's go further to see different chord qualities. What do you mean by chord qualities? It means major, minor, perfect, augmented, and diminished. They all have symbols to represent their qualities. For example, in a C major scale, we can build up an interval based on each note. The first one is in unison. The second one from C to D is a major second. The third one from C to E is the major third. For the fourth and fifth, we call them perfect fourth and perfect fifth. Next is a major sixth and a major seventh. This formula is the same for any other major scales. In minor scale, the method of counting numbers is the same as major, however, the quality of some intervals changed. For example, the interval of third, sixth, and seventh are slightly altered with a semitone smaller. It becomes minor third, minor sixth, and minor seventh, respectively. The unison, major second, perfect fourth, and perfect fifth stay the same. For augmented intervals, it is a semitone higher in a perfect or major interval. Let's take a perfect fifth as an example. From C to G, it is a perfect fifth. However, if we raise the G to a semitone higher, to G sharp, the interval is made a semitone bigger. It becomes an augmented fifth. Another example here from C to D is a major second. If the D is raised to a semitone higher to D sharp, it can be named as an augmented second. Diminished intervals are one semitone smaller than a perfect or minor interval. For example, from C to G is a perfect fifth. If we lower the G to G flat, the interval becomes a semitone smaller. It is a diminished fifth. Here is another example of diminished interval. From C to A flat is a minor sixth. If we lower the A flat to a semitone lower, it becomes a double flat. Theoretically, it is a diminished sixth interval. That's all for this episode. See you until next time. In music theory, Triads and diatonic chords play a crucial role for establishing harmony and structure. At the end of this video, you will be able to identify the quality and realize the function of certain diatonic chords, which is a very important aspect in harmony. First, let's dive in the tonic triad. Triads are three-note chords. Tonic triads are formed by stacking two intervals of a third on top of a tonic note. For example, to build a C major tonic triad, we start by writing the first note of the scale, C. Then, we add a third from C to E, and another third from E to G, and it creates a tonic triad. So here's how it works. Tonic triads are built on the first, third, and fifth of the scale degrees in the same key. With the same logic, you can create a tonic triad in any major and minor key. Now, can you tell what the tonic triad of D major is? Yes, you are right. The notes are D, F sharp, and A, corresponding to the first, third, and fifth degree of the D major scale, respectively. Now, we will go through how to label chords. To designate chords in music, we always used Roman numerals. For example, in C major scale, if a chord is built from the first degree of the scale, it is referred to as chord 1, or tonic. The labels for all chords based on C major scale are listed below. They are also known as diatonic scale and chords. Note that in all major scales, chord 1, 4, 5 are always in major quality, which is why we use capital Roman numerals here. Chord 2, 3, and 6 are in minor quality, so we used lowercase here. Chord 7 is a diminished chord, hence we use a small circle to represent it. At this moment, it is very important for you to understand why we need to learn these things in music theory. It is the function of chords. In harmony, tonic chord is always very stable. It doesn't have any tendency to move. Subdominant chord has a slight tendency to move forward. Dominant chord has a very strong tendency to move forward. That's why you always hear the chord is followed by the tonic. In the advanced level of music theory, you will study chord progression like this, and what you need to know is the function of each chord. By understanding triads and diatonic chords, musicians can create melodic and harmonic progressions that are pleasing to the ear and convey specific emotions. These concepts serve as building blocks for further exploration and understanding of music theory. That's all for this lesson. See you.